It was absolutely a perfect introduction, so the floor goes now to Malik El Bay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Malik El Bay, and it's a pleasure for me and an honor for me to be here in Milan tonight.
Continue my talk in English because it's way more easier for me, even though I would say that it would be more beautiful in Italian. So I start with a little video at the beginning to ease the mood into the topic today, that we will be talking about DAOs.
All right, perfect.
Oh, hey, Mark.
Hey, what's going on?
Hi, Mark. What's up, Mark?
Whoa, we're floating in space? Who made this place? It's awesome.
Right? It's from a crater I met in LA.
This place is amazing.
Boz, is that you?
Of course it's me. You know I had to be the robot, man.
I thought I was supposed to be the robot.
Whoa.
I knew you were bluffing.
Hey, wait. Where is Naomi?
Let's call her.
Naomi.
Hey, should we deal you in?
Sorry, I'm running late, but you gotta see what we're checking out. There's an artist going around Soho hiding AR pieces for people to find.
3D street art? That's cool.
Send that link over so we can all look at it. This is stunning.
Okay, that is something.
That's awesome.
I love the movement.
Wait, it's disappearing.
This is amazing.
Hold on, I'll tip the artist and they'll extend it.
Wow, brilliant.
If you guys like it here, I have another room that you're gonna love. Check out this forest room.
Huh, let's see it.
Koi fish that fly? That's new.
This is wild. Hey, one sec, Boz. It's Priscilla.
Hey, you have to see this. Beast is going crazy.
Oh, I love that guy. We've got to show that to the kids. Can you also send that to my dad?
I'll message him.
All right, see you at home. This place is great, Boz, but there's something I got to get back to.
So as you can see, that was an advertisement from Meta, the company that Mark Zuckerberg founded a few years ago, that brings us Facebook and WhatsApp and Instagram and whatnot. And I mean, that seems like a fantastic world where these companies bring people together, all built on open source technology, as you can see here in the World Wide Web, connecting us peer-to-peer with no central intermediaries and closing gaps and making sure that we can be close to our loved ones. Technology that brought us Wikipedia, shared knowledge. Everybody can contribute, everybody can consume, can shape it, and basically make knowledge accessible for everybody. That sounds like a fantastic world, right? I would say it's far away from the reality. The reality is that these big companies, these big tech companies, they control and influence this World Wide Web that was bringing us, let's say, freedom or more openness. These companies are highly centralized. It's a few people that decide how this technology that is so important is being developed, in which direction, for what. These companies mainly main data, they collect information about us. They collect all the data they can get to make our lives easier, but also to grab our attention, to keep us hooked, to influence us, to influence our elections. If you want to read more about all the dark sides of big tech, of Alphabet, Apple, and Meta, I would invite you to read our series that we published a few months ago with title Do Not Feed the Google. So a few of you might know that Google or Alphabet has a very big office in Zurich, and so far nobody took this critical position looking at this big tech company and showing us that maybe there is too much power in one organization and how to handle that. So if you want to dig deeper in this direction, I invite you to read more in this article series. Before digging into our topic, I want to share a few numbers to make you aware of how important web or the internet is. So this big number you can see here, that's a bit more than 5 billion people. That's 60% of our world population. This is how many people are online 2023. So 60% of the whole planet is online. And this number here shows the average time that we are online per day. So 6 hours, 35 minutes, 25 seconds. That's more of a quarter of a whole day that we are online. So I believe it's important that we look critical at who provides us this technology and what their intent is. And basically, this is what the main topic of tonight will be. And I think I showed you where the issues lie. And personally, I do like to talk more about possibilities and solutions than pointing out problems. So we will dig a little bit deeper, show what kind of tools that the Web3 can offer us, what kind of limitations that these tools have. We'll define also the term DAO, which some of you might have heard of, some of you not. So I hope that at the end of my talk, you all will have an idea about this new structure. Basically, what we want to explore today is how we get from this kind of very centralized structures to a more decentralized or distributed structure. I would put it a bit easier what we try to achieve. So a little bit about myself. Maria gave already a fantastic introduction beforehand. I'm a trained scientist. So I used to work in the lab. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit clumsy. Or fortunately, because actually I really love where I landed. I still do experiments, but more in the digital sphere with communities and digital technologies and digital media. And Maria also introduced Decentrum, which is a think do tank based in Zurich. We're quite young, so we turned 5 this year. And our goal is to leverage these technologies to add value in society. So that's our main goal, our vision, and why we exist as Decentrum. But again, to the primarily topic of today, it's how can we make this internet owned and controlled by the people? Because obviously, the way it is right now, it is not. And to answer this question, we can look at similar models in other industries, or we can also go back a little bit in history. So I brought a picture with me. I spent the weekend in Donat, which is in the mountains, and some of you might spend some time in the mountains. There's a lot of the Alps, right, where the cows go in summer. They're not owned by one farmer or by 2 farmers. They're basically available for all farmers in the valley. So everybody who has a farm in the valley can bring their cow up there, and they coordinate and organize the usage of this commons or common grassland in a very democratic fashion. Farmers were also the root of cooperatives, which sort of have the same idea. Let's govern our common goods together in a democratic and participative way. So really, the real peer-to-peer, if you want to say so. We can also look at railways, highways, or water constructions. This is also a public good. We need to organize it together. Usually, this is the job of the state. And thank God in our spheres that the state is a very democratic institution. So we vote and we elect people to take care of these public goods. Some of you might have heard of Eleanor Ostrom that focused on these common or public goods. I'm sure you've already heard this strategy of the commons. Basically that if there is a commons, if there is something that is owned by no one or by everyone, there's a big problem of overuse. Now, in the digital world, or in the Web3, we have a state of abundance. And in abundance, I would argue overusage is probably not the main limited factor. So if you think about how to get to this notion of infrastructure owned by the people, controlled by the people, what is this limiting factor? What is scarce? And what should we look at in order to get to this state where we actually own the infrastructure that is so important to us? And my thesis is that what we lack is proper coordination. And this is where this notion of internet organizations would come in place. How can we organize many people without having centralized control, without having big tech coming out at the end controlling us again? And for this we can look to the animals. I brought an image of bees. I could have brought ants as well. These animals are fantastic in coordinating each other and then building really complex structures that even the sum of each individual would not reach. The term used is swarm intelligence. What about us humans? Do we have swarm intelligence as well? I mean, we definitely have very impressive systems and constructs, be it the dome here in Milano, be it the pyramids, Angkor Wat, or other fantastic architecture. But I would say that compared to animals with swarm intelligence, we have rulers that sort of dictated these fantastic buildings that are still very nice to watch, so or to visit. So in a way, the ancient pyramids could be compared with Meta, Alphabet, and Amazon of today. And the question is, can we introduce something like swarm intelligence in the digital world? And these DAOs, these decentralized autonomous organizations, they at least aim at trying to introduce that into the digital world. So DAOs, there's no one definition of it yet. It's still being argued, and I will try different approaches for you to understand this idea or this concept a little bit better. So I think one way to imagine a DAO is an internet native company or internet native organization which lives actually in the internet. There's no office, there is no stuff. You coordinate via group chats, so you chat with each other. Usually they're really transparent, so you have transparent bank accounts. You see what kind of funds the organization has available to do things. And usually they work with proposals and votes. So that's one way to try to express that. Or, I mean, a second way to look at DAOs is as loosely coupled networks. So instead of these organizations that we really know by now, where you're either like part of it or not, which are really hierarchical, you have a boss, you have a CEO, and so on, you have these networks. So DAOs usually don't know management or chief executive officers. They don't know kings, or they know core contributors, they know guardians, and they have other terms for people contributing more in these systems. There's two important notions about DAOs. So they're self-organized. There's nobody that dictates how the organization has to look like and how it works, and they're self-executing in a manner that the agreements are put in a blockchain-based smart contracts. So if votes happen, if there's proposals, they're in a way self-executing that nobody can sort of say, okay, no, now we halt it. And they're also in a way self-executing that even though the founders of a DAO, they decide to leave it, it will continue existing. As long that there's people that are still willing to participate and to keep shaping it. So it's a very abstract concept as you see. And I think abstract concepts, the easiest way to grasp at them is with examples. So I brought a few examples for you. There's a KlimaDAO. The mission of KlimaDAO is to save our planet by looking after our climate. Mainly what KlimaDAO does is it buys CO2 certificates, and then it makes sure that these certificates are put in a place where actually plants are being grown. So this is KlimaDAO. It is coordinated with a token, and it's open to participate in. So each of you that thinks that's a good idea, I want to participate, you can go visit the website and start participating and contributing to this endeavor. There's another example, VitaDAO. It's based in Switzerland. VitaDAO is funding and doing research in the longevity space. So it's basically a science organization making sure that research is happening that is also then later on commercialized. Okay, so completely different company. And one more, CityDAO. That's very experimental. So the goal of CityDAO is to actually build a Web3 native city. And it's quite a big vision. The way they started CityDAO is that they sold these citizen NFTs. So there's a few people, including myself, we own one of these citizenships that enables us to participate, to discuss what should happen with the funds, in which direction the CityDAO should go. So CityDAO bought land in Wyoming, for instance, or CityDAO has stands in conferences, and all that is coordinated permissionlessly in the internet. So I gave you 3 quick examples of very different organizations and companies being a DAO. I hope that your takeaway is that it is not that it is mainly like a tool that you can use to coordinate people towards a certain goal, to coordinate resources towards a certain goal. Now, after these examples, I have a few case studies where we can dig a little bit deeper, because I'm actively shaping them or part of them in different ways. And I would like to start with no one's one. So at Decentrum in 2018, we had the fantastic idea, if there's self-executing code, let's build self-owned property. So let's build a house which is owned by a smart contract, which is owned by the house. That means at the end, the house owns itself. And we opened up that door, and we understood that this is quite complex to achieve due to different reasons. So for instance, from a legal perspective, it's quite difficult to have a house or actual property owning itself. From a technological perspective, it's quite a challenge to set up a smart contract in a way that it assumes all issues that might happen in the future. And from a governance perspective, the question arises, and who now shapes this house? So as said, 2018, we started thinking about that idea where we see heaps of potential. Is it possible to create space that can fill up this void between public and private space that is only driven by its purpose, for instance, hosting events, or for instance, giving shelter to people, and can be taken out of these market mechanisms that we can watch at the moment? How close is it to Wohnbaugenossenschaft, like cooperatives that provide housing? Is it maybe something that these cooperatives can use to take a step into the digital world? So that was basically what we were thinking, arguing, and publishing things about in 2018-19. And we're then very happy that in a few years later, Una, Wang, and Jens picked up this idea. So Una was doing her master thesis at the technical at ETH in Zurich, and was fascinated by this topic, and she built this prototype here. So she materialized this very abstract idea in something that you can touch, that you can interact with. As you can see, it's a quite, let's say, simple house, which is used for meditation purposes. And I have a little video that we can watch, and I will continue giving you some insights about No One's One. So meditation, as you know, you don't need a lot of things. You need a space to sit, and that's more or less it. And that was the perfect use case of the first step, to develop the contracts that are needed, and to see where the limitations of this space are. So No One's One has a smart contract, is living in the blockchain, and you can interact with it, and you can rent the room for the time that you use it. And the idea is that it accumulates funds, and at some point, maybe it needs something to be fixed. And at that point, the house can call itself somebody to fix itself. It might accumulate as many funds that it will duplicate and create another No One's One. As you see, that's very, let's say, thought-provocative. And at the end, also No One's One can be looked at as decentralized autonomous organization, because somebody is governing it. Somebody needs to decide in which direction it is moving forward. And this happens in a very democratic fashion. Now, as said, the prototype was built. The question arises, what is next? So currently we have people owning land, people buying houses, and people seeing that in their area there's a lot of little sheds not being used, that all think about taking this concept and implementing it in their surroundings. Personally, I believe that there's not one no one's one. There will be different implementations of it. If you want to interact with the house, it will be in Basel in the Heck, starting September for a few weeks, so we can actually go touch it and maybe meditate a little bit in No One's One. So I said No One's One is a house owning itself. It lives in the blockchain, and since it lives in the blockchain, it has an account, right? In the blockchain, you have wallets. You don't have email addresses like in Web 1. You have wallets or accounts, and before Safe came into existence, there was accounts owned only by individuals. So I have the private key of my account, of my wallet. I can open it up with my private key, and it's basically my wallet as it would be in my pocket. If I now lose my private key, then I lose everything that I have in my wallet. If somebody steals my private key, he gets everything that is in my wallet. And obviously, this is not the best way to go about accounts. So Safe provides smart accounts. What do smart accounts mean? So instead of one person owning one wallet, it's actually, again, a program that coordinates or that makes sure who or how you interact with your account. A simple explanation or a simple example could be that you say, my wallet is not owned by my key, but it's owned by 5 keys, and such that something happened, I need at least 3 signatures. So if you want to make an example here, if a wallet is a bank account, that's a company account, a multi-signature wallet. But it doesn't stop there. Since it's a program, you can program in it whatever you want. So you can program that these 5 addresses can interact with my wallet, but they have spending limits. If they spend more than 1,000 a day, it stops. Or you can give one of the experts that you have in your field, you can give them the right to stop transactions if they think they're fishy. Or even you can say, to recover my account, if these 5 people bring each their piece together, they can open it up. So this is infrastructure, and it's critical infrastructure in the Web3, currently holding a little bit above 60 billion in assets. And this is also the way Safe is designed as an organization. So when Safe was spun out of the previous organization was part of, the idea was really that it is an ecosystem, because what they develop in the core is best used by a lot of different organizations for different use cases. And it wouldn't make sense that Safe does all of them. And also what Safe is doing should not be controlled by the team or by the board, but rather by the ecosystem. So it's really about a community-driven infrastructure. Safe, by the way, is also a Swiss-based foundation, as are a few of the bigger Web3 companies or organizations that we know. So let's look into these efforts of SafeDAO, which is now, after the house, really more tangible from my perspective. So a bit less than a year ago, they officially announced that they are launching the SafeDAO, and they issued the Safe token. So the DAO is organized or coordinated with this token, and you could get a handoff by being part of the team. So team members got some safe tokens, investors got some safe tokens, but also people that do important work in the ecosystem, so-called safe guardians. And then last but not least, all previous users. So safe was the infrastructure, this multi-signature wallet, this smart account, was already live before they spun out the company, and they could give these tokens to coordinate and decide in which direction Safe should go to their users. So my role is a Safe guardian, and I was also Safe user, so I have basically both hats on when it comes to Safe. Now, as said, it's a Swiss-based foundation, where when the team does work, this is the foundation, the organization that does the contract with the team. It's where all the investment money is held to do the development, and the whole trademark, and copyrights, and so on are in the foundation. And on the other hand, you have the Safe token. The Safe token is being used with a delegation principle to enact so-called regulations, which then will even regulate the foundation. And until now, we had 5 of these so-called Safe improvement proposals being done, and you see that the participation is with around a little bit more than 10%, quite high. If you think about that, this is like 5 times that we voted about things since September. And it's also quite high if you think about that more of half of these Safe tokens, they're not even distributed yet, right? So this is a recent election, which is actually currently going on. As you can see, there's different options. Basically, we are voting now for a grants council. Beforehand, we voted on a proposal which gave sort of the frame for grants being issued. So Safe issues grants outside of their team, such that people can work in the ecosystem. And to govern this, we now are voting on a council here. So the vote is still ongoing. I already gave my vote, and as you can see, I don't know who of you is part of a stock corporation or owns shares somewhere. I think we are quite familiar with this voting process. We're familiar in a sense of that there's once a year the General Assembly, and then there's a lot of topics that we vote on, right? And basically, one of the challenges that we have in stock corporations and also in DAOs governing infrastructure is that there are these so-called whales. So in Web3 world, it's the whales. These whales, they hold a lot of tokens. And the issue with whales is that they, at the end, have a very big say compared to people that have only a little bit of the tokens or a little bit of the shares, if you want to go back to the classical world. Maybe to finish this analogy with the stock corporation. So the DAO that you saw before is very similar in terms of dynamics, but way more agile. It's way more participatory. So it's not once a year on something that I don't really care, but it's like on a monthly basis, more or less. If I want, I can sort of shape that. And even like everybody here in the audience can submit such an improvement proposal. It's open for everyone. You don't even need to hold the Safe token to do that. But still, like you see the challenges that we have in the, let's say, the actual world at the moment. We also have them in Web3. And the question is, can we balance this a little bit? So on one side, we have this whales voting, this if I'm invested, I have more to say. On the other hand, we have this democratic voting, this one person, one vote governance schemes. I'm not saying that one is better than the other. They all have their purpose. Makes a lot of sense if somebody invests a lot into something that he has more to say. But especially if it's about coordinating infrastructure, we need to find, or at least we need to have the options to have democratic voting in the internet, if you ask me. There's also the term of quadratic voting, which is basically trying to take the best of both worlds and mixing this. Now, if we want to have one person, one vote, or democratic voting, what we need is digital personhood. So we need a proof that this wallet address, which you can imagine as an email address, that this belongs actually to a human being, and not this human being is smart and created 100 of them. That's quite a challenging problem, especially if you want to solve it in a permissionless manner. So let's say the easiest but not permissionless manner to solve that is if you have your identity card, right? And then maybe some of you did that already online, so you show your identity card, you show your face, and somebody does this KYC process, know your customer. They verify that this identity is actually you and that it's a state-issued identity card. The problem here is that still we have more than 1 billion people, they don't have an identity card. They're still humans. And another issue is if I don't want to share my identity, I don't get access. So this permissionless digital personhood is quite a difficult problem that we try to tackle with Encounter. So Encounter is a Kusama common good parachain. Kusama is one of these Web3 ecosystems. And the goal of Encounter is to bring democracy and more inclusivity in this Web3 world, to exactly tackle what we started off at the beginning. So can we manage and own this infrastructure together in a peer-to-peer manner? The way that Encounter does that is by providing this proof of personhood and universal basic income. So the idea of universal basic income in the context of Encounter is that every human being on this planet should have access to our digital infrastructure, should also have access to this newly created financial infrastructure, but it doesn't stop there. Every human being should have enough means to be able to interact in a meaningful way. So this is what we try to achieve with Kusama, and the way we do it is that we have basically tools that can be used by communities to create their own local currencies, which they issue as basic income on a regular basis. Now, as said before, if this is permissionless, so everybody can participate, how can we make sure that there's not a smart person that comes up with 100 accounts and claims this basic income 100 times? Because that's not what we want to achieve. And here we have a very simple idea. We as humans, we're physical beings. And as physical beings, we can't be in one place at the same time. So if I'm standing here, I can't be at the same time outside. And this is basically exactly how the Encounter protocol works. As community, you agree on that you meet on a regular basis. At the moment, that's all 10 days. You get assigned to a random location that's hyper-local. So at the moment, we have communities in Zurich and Green Bay and so on. But in Zurich, that is one district in Zurich where you get assigned on. And then you need to show up there very punctual. And once you're there, there's like a random other 10 people, and you attest each other to humanity. So basically, you check this as a human being. You don't ask them about their name. You don't ask them if they have a permit or not. You don't ask them if they are allowed to be in Zurich. You just check if they're human. Once this is done, and that's a process of like a minute or two, these attestations are sent to the protocol, and the protocol actually creates new currency, which is then distributed to all people that attended. Very simple concept, which we are now testing a bit more than a year. In this time, we created communally about 40,000 LOI, this is how this community currency is called. In Zurich, we agreed with the roughly 25 businesses that 1 Lois is 1 Swiss franc. So they really accept it at parity. We have roughly 1,000 or a bit more than 1,000 people actually interacting with our systems. And in this 1 year, we learned quite a lot about how to establish such a local currency, where the pain points are, and how we can enable people outside of Zurich to use our technology. Because at the end, let's face it, not enough money is not the main issue that we have in Zurich. This might be this might be the case in other places on this world. As said, we have a community live in Green Bay in the US. There was one live in Kigali, and there's like other ones coming up around the globe. For instance, in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, they're creating a community called Nyota, which is basically star in Swahili. And it's here again, if you go back to this loosely coupled network, yes, there's the core team. But communities have all decision power when it comes to their local implementation for the currency. So they decide all the parameters, the names, they build up the community and so on. Here are a few impressions that you can see how this looks like. So you can see that there's a few pictures with me, a screenshot in it. This is people in Zurich actually creating this currency together. And then the other one is the teams outside of Zurich launching their own token. So to summarize what Encointo does, it's basically really facilitating democracy in this Web3 world by doing something actually a little bit strange if we think about digital worlds. It brings us together in the real world. So I have one more little topic to touch, and then I will be at the end of my small input here, and that's DAO Swiss. As said, like this talk is exploring also decentralized autonomous organizations, and a few weeks ago we founded actually this association in Switzerland. DAO Swiss is an umbrella association for DAOs in Switzerland. And as umbrella association, it has to be a DAO itself. Now, why did we create that? There's still a lot of question marks. As said, there's no clear definition of what the DAO is. On a regulatory side, we still have a lot of questions open. When it comes to governance and organization, there's a lot of know-how that has or can be transferred within this community to make this new organizational form the success it can be to have a global impact. With DAO Swiss, we focus Switzerland mainly, which is quite good because, as said, we are home for a lot of very important or important Web3 projects. And I think that would be the last DAO that I quickly introduce. And with that, I thank you very much for your attention. And if there's questions left, I'm happy to answer them.